30s are focused on things that I know that make sense to me. And so I'm going to get going because I'm a talker and I could totally go for the whole hour. And I know I have like 11 minutes. So I just want to say that at the end of my father's career, at a time when he had left business and couldn't get a job because he was in his 50s, and we had lost my mom and he had cared for her for when she was sick. He volunteered as a guardian for someone and helped that gentleman who didn't have a family. When that gentleman passed away, he got a job with the Blackstone Valley Arc here in Rhode Island and was a direct care provider for 15 years. And he has told me many, many times that was the most rewarding experience of his life professionally. I think he made all of $13 an hour or so when he did it, but he tried to retire 3 times, and the people that he worked with kept pulling him back in. And he's now finally retired, but really a rewarding opportunity to give back. I understand the value of helping everybody in our society. My mom was an early childhood educator, so the care economy is big to me. I understand both sides of it. I've seen it a bit, and it makes a lot of sense. So when we get to make investments like the ones you're going to hear about today, you're going to hear that, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're standing up for people that don't always have a voice and making sure that for Rhode Island to be successful, we invest in everyone that wants to participate in our economy. And so we're going to kind of breeze through this presentation because everybody can have it in an email. They can have the attachment. They can see all the cool stuff that we do. We're limited on time, so I'm going to just talk about a few things. Okay, so DLT is a good-sized agency, between 400 and 420 people at any given time. We have a lot of different responsibilities. We enforce labor laws. We run the unemployment and temporary disability programs. We run a paid family leave program. We do all workforce development for the state. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And information about those other things is available in the presentation. But back in 2015, we reimagined the way that Rhode Island handles workforce development. Prior to that time, we pretty much ran federal programming. And then we trained people and hope they got a job. Across the country, people called that train and pray. And it wasn't really a great way to do it. But that's the way that government handled this. It was really very much supply side driven. So train somebody with using federal resources or state resources and then pray that they can get a job. It wasn't super responsive to the needs of our economy. In 2015, we went to a sector-based demand-driven program that we call Real Jobs Rhode Island. They called it Real Jobs because the governor at the time said, I want it to be attached to a real job. I want somebody to have the opportunity to get a job when they're done with this training or to advance their job. And so that's what we did. And over the last 10 years, we've really built it out. We weren't the first one to do this, but we were the first one to bring it to scale. So in Rhode Island, it became incredibly big in this little tiny state. We've had now 128 partnerships, I think it is. We've served 6,500 different employers. And little old Rhode Island, that's a lot. Because until recently, there were only like 33,000 employers in Rhode Island. Now there's like 40,000. But 6,500 different employers have benefited from this program. 36,000 Rhode Islanders have been served. So, again, we have 1 million people, but we're a tiny little place. We have basically one economy here. So we're able to really focus on different industries. We've had 18 sectors that we've worked in, and we've been able to train and place people across the state. It's done something crazy. Imagine this. Government gets out of the way and lets professionals and experts that actually know what they're responding to build their own programming. They come back in if they're awarded a partnership and they say, hey, if you could fund us, here's what we could do. And you're going to hear about some of those cool things in a little bit. Some of the work that we've done in the space, helping individuals with differing abilities, has really opened doors for them to get connected to our economy in a meaningful way. I remember going out to the coffee shop with Sue and Rory. I remember seeing the looks on the faces of the people that are participating. And was it Michael that owned that shop? Serving me a coffee, and he made fun of my beard, by the way. But, getting to this young man, along with his mom, who took a big risk on him, opened this coffee shop. And to see the pride that he had in the work that he was doing made every decision that we make at DLT an easy one. And so what does that mean as far as money? Since 2017, we put about $5.8 million into this work between the different programs. Of course, during the pandemic, we had a lot of money. We were pandemic rich like they were across the country, and now it's a little bit different. And my friends would tell you that now they get communication from me sometimes that says, hey, we don't have a lot of money. Let's make sure we're really tightening our belts and focusing on outcome-based work. Some administrations think that means volume. right? How many people can we put through a program to show that it's working? This administration and me here as the leader at DLT believes that an impact to an individual can be greater than to lots of individuals if it actually makes a difference. So if we fund Project Search and 6 people get an opportunity they never would have had before, that means more to me than a couple of hundred people going through, kind of an okay training to get low wage work. So really, I have to think about that kind of impact. And that's why the decisions aren't that difficult. Can you advance, please? So, this is just some of the statistical data about, well, of course, I've committed some of it to memory. And that's how I was able to tell you that already. But it's real, right? A little state, we didn't have these numbers when we were running a supply-based program. Once we got the experts to make the decisions, we started to see great results. And so if we advance again, please. And these are some of our partners. You'll see that we have great partners with labor unions. It's a big deal here in Rhode Island. Healthcare systems, nonprofits, you name it, we're involved. And some of Rhode Island's largest employers and smallest employers have all participated in this program. And keep going, Doug. And so, this is an important slide, and my colleagues here will talk to you a little bit about this work. But I know each and every one of these programs because I've been out to see them. And I talked to my team about the investments that are being requested, and we really understand what the value of this work is. And I have to give credit to Rory and Sue and Aimee and everyone who's been involved. It's not easy right now. The letters say, hey, tighten up, we're going to be okay, but let's go forward. The next letter said, I'm going to reset the whole program. We're 10 years in, we've grown really big. 61 active partners, $40 million a year of investments during the pandemic. And now we're down to like a $10 to $12 million budget. There's no way we can keep it going the same direction. So what we need to do is reset. We need to think about who we're serving, how impactful it is that investment going to make a difference for those folks? The governor has me leading a strategy for the state on increasing incomes for people. That means getting them connected to the economy. And it means everybody who wants to be connected can be in a meaningful way. And so that doesn't mean I simply look at programs and say, we've always worked with them, I'm going to keep funding them. It means, hey, Sue, Rory, and Aimee, how is this work going to matter? And show me, please, how someone benefits from this. And if I get to see someone open a beautiful photography business, which I've seen through this work, or I get to see the smile on someone's face who now has a good full-time job at Bally's, that's fantastic. That makes a world of difference to me. And my memory is my best asset. I remember the conversations. I remember going out on the visits and getting to meet the individuals. And that's what sits on my shoulder when I'm making these decisions. In addition to that, the staff here are incredible, very talented, and they get involved with these programs. And their job is to advocate for the program. So that if I let them make the decisions, they'd say yes to everything. So, I have to then make decisions that are a little bit more difficult. And as we go forward, I imagine that we'll be having the same kind of relationship we've had in the past because of your connection to the work and the service that you're providing. But we've seen people open their own businesses. We've done the working with partners, the inclusive PCA training, Skills and Workability offers consulting services to help employers onboard people with differing abilities and to be able to navigate those challenges and what comes with that. The University of Minnesota data collection is really giving us a lot of information about the work that we're doing, and we're investing because we know that good data helps us tell a good story. Right now, the governor's got this 2030 plan. It's not a political thing. It's a blueprint for our state. Oftentimes, Governor McKee is called the coach of Rhode Island. He's like everybody's uncle. Like, he loves the state. He wants to do right by the state, and he's a charming guy, and he has a plan. I've been in government 25 years. We don't always plan. We react. And so he has a plan, and that plan says, let's grow incomes to make it a little easier for people. A lot of my colleagues in state departments saw their budgets get cut this year because we're facing a structural deficit. My budget grew this year because the governor put $2.3 million into the Real Jobs program, in addition to what we had put in before. He put $2 million in additional money just for youth work-based learning opportunities through some of our youth programming. We put another $800,000 in to help people get an entry into the building trades. He's investing into these programs because he knows the way through a sluggish and slowing economy is through meaningful connection to the labor market. And so I'm hopeful that in the next month to 6 weeks, when the budget gets passed, that the people in the State House, my friends where I used to work, do what they say they're going to do and pass this budget. Give us the resources so we can continue to fund these programs. I'll close there so I don't take up too much time. I'll just say that in Rhode Island, because of our size, we are unique. We have the opportunity to make, I think, an outsized impact in the work that we do. It's not county-based here. We're not municipal-based, even though Providence and Cranston, the two bigger cities, do get the lion's share. We're a statewide economy here, and everybody knows everybody. So you have to be super careful when you talk to other people. And a boss of mine, a good friend of mine, used to say, listen to how somebody asks you in Rhode Island if you know somebody else. If they say, hey, do you know Matt Weldon? That might be like, hey, okay, they might have a positive thing to say. But if they say, do you know Matt Weldon? You may have to listen to that and be like, oh, hold on a minute. Because there's a very good chance that the person that you're talking to is related to me or connected to someone who is. But all of that works in our favor because we have a good, tight network. I'm a cabinet member here in government. I never thought I'd be in that position, but I am. I've got this great opportunity to serve and to give back. I'm just a kid who worked in a lower middle class, grew up in a lower middle class family who's been working since he was of age to get papers. And don't tell the labor department, but I was actually working for my dad at his business at 11 years old. And there's a picture in my office to prove it. So I've been working for 36 years because that's all that I know how to do. I never thought I'd be in a position of leadership. And yet here I am. The governor of the state of Rhode Island texted me to tell my son to have a good middle school baseball game. Things like that happen because of the size of our state. And we have to use that to our advantage. So it's my pleasure to be here today. It's really a thrill and an honor for me to get to know people like Rory and Sue and Aimee and to invest in that work. And I look forward to keep doing it. And I'll take any questions you have at the end.
Thank you, Director Weldon. I'll tell you this, Matt. There are always opportunities to move to Georgia, and you're probably going to get several of those requests. But we love this, and we love how you kicked it off here for folks. So, Sue, you are up. Is that correct here?
Yes.
And if I can get out of this and pull yours up, I will. All right, Sue. Thanks, everyone. Please put into chat if there are things that you want to ask. We'll keep a running total of those, so no problem. And Sue, I think you're ready here.
All right. So I wanted to start off with this slide because when I look at like Matt just said, with so much enthusiasm, look at these happy faces. This is just a small sample of different people that have gone through our self-employment project. And you just see people of all kinds of abilities and just really incredible entrepreneurs. Next slide, Doug. So I wanted to talk a little bit about our self-employment project, just a couple of words about an overview, why we think it's really important, the benefits of self-employment, some of the key program components that I think make our program unique. And then Karen Rasnick is here to give a family perspective, and then our contact information. Next slide, Doug. So now I love this picture too. So that on the left is Brian Barron, and he is a photographer, and he just loves wearing that sweatshirt because one of the unique things about having your own business is that people can be their own boss. And for some folks, traditional types of employment just don't work. It's hard for some people to do a 9-to-5 job. Sometimes people apply for jobs and they don't get the job, or they don't even get an interview, which is really discouraging for folks. And then there's some people that live out in the country like me. I live in the northern part of the state, believe it or not, the rural part of Rhode Island, where transportation is really difficult. We only have 2 buses a day that come up my way. So sometimes transportation is hard for people. Historically in Rhode Island and across the nation, self-employment really was not a visible option for individuals with disabilities. Today in Rhode Island, thanks to DLT funding our project since 2018, it's a statewide project. People know about it. It's not something that people don't know about. What self-employment does for individuals is that it opens up doors and it matches the person's interests, their skills and dreams with opportunities to launch or grow their own small business. The person gets to work at something that's really meaningful to them. And the other great thing about self-employment is that it demonstrates to the public that people with disabilities can be entrepreneurs just like anybody else. The next slide, Doug. Well, what are the benefits? As I said, people work in a job that they love. They're doing something that is a passion that they have, something that they're skilled at. It could be a hobby where they're turning the hobby into money-making opportunities. It gives people a chance to network, to meet other people, to interact with customers. And through that work, people improve their communication. You'll hear at the end from Karen Rasnick about her daughter Rachel and how her whole personality has changed in her level of self-confidence because she's a business owner. She loves to show people her business card. People really appreciate that opportunity to call themselves a boss and to say, hey, I'm a business owner. The other benefit of self-employment is that people get to set their own business hours versus time set by an employer. We have really, you can go ahead, Doug. Some of the unique components of our project, everybody can run a curriculum for self-employment with business classes. We have 8 different classes. That's the standard. It's the other stuff that we provide that I think makes us stand out and makes us as successful as we have been. The 8 business classes are things like, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? What are the steps to running your business? What is your target market? Today, we were talking about an elevator pitch. What can you say about your business so that people want to buy what it is that you have to offer? We talk about social media and marketing, accounting and finances, and just the whole notion of keeping track of your sales and expenses. The unique things that we offer are one-to-one technical support with our business instructors. And those instructors are people that came from the Small Business Administration. They were teaching in other SBA programs around the state, and they're now working for us as our business instructors. So any of our individuals that are in the classes can meet one-on-one with these business instructors and find out something specific for them of how we can help them with marketing or how they can keep track of their finances or what do they need to have in their business plan that's really important. People also get staff from the individuals that work for us with the project, as well as peer mentors. It's really important for individuals with disabilities to see that there's other individuals out there that are entrepreneurs and to learn from them. We have a weekly entrepreneurs forum on Thursday afternoons from 3 to 4 o'clock. If anybody ever wants to pop in and see that, shoot me off an email. You'll see my contact at the end, and you can jump in on that. And that's a way for people to kind of keep up to date on marketing ideas and things that are coming up in the state that they need to be thinking about, like Mother's Day just went by, Father's Day is coming up, Easter pass. What can you do within your business to market based on what those events are throughout the state? Another really important aspect is to provide people with mini grants for startup costs. We get some of those resources from DLT as well as from the Fogarty Foundation. That's really important for people to have a little bit of money to buy the supplies and small equipment that they need for their business. Another key thing is using individuals from the community. We've hired a public relations agency to do all of our communications and to help individuals with their businesses to get stories in the newspaper. So when Matt said, we know everybody, we do know everybody. We have just a couple of key newspapers in the state that everybody reads. And so if there's a story about an entrepreneur with a disability, then a lot of people have seen that particular story. The ongoing support for selling platforms, that's one of the key challenges that people have. Where am I going to sell my products or my services? Am I selling online? Am I selling in a storefront? Am I selling myself? Am I selling through Etsy or some type of Shopify or something along those lines? Are we selling at vendor markets? And where are those vendor markets? We pay for the fees for individuals to go to the vendor markets so that they can be there selling their products. And lastly, we have a paid speakers bureau for individuals that have graduated from our program to talk to other folks about what does it mean to be a business owner? What did you learn from this project? What advice would you give to other individuals with disabilities? And if people out there from Georgia or other states, I know we have people all around the country, if you're interested in having us come and speak or have it listening to any one of our entrepreneurs to speak about their business, let me know and we'd be glad to come out and talk to you. Next slide, Doug. All right. Karen, I would like you to, this is a quote from Karen, but I would like Karen to kind of take this page and talk about Rachel a little bit.
So my daughter Rachel is 31 years old now. 31. She did the business class. I think she was in the first or second business class. Rachel has autism spectrum disorder. She has OCD, ADHD, and the gamut of disabilities. She was very, very shy and had a lot of difficulty speaking with people. When she finished high school and went into her adult day program, she started painting one day, and her paintings were so beautiful that they started selling them. And she is in a program called Looking Upward. They were approached by Sue and the business program. And Rachel, we signed her up for the business classes. She went with my husband. She had her head down on the desk. She didn't understand what was going on at first, but she really made some wonderful friends in that class, Michael from the coffee shop being one of them. And we applied for the small business grant and got it and started buying some supplies. And lo and behold, a business started. She started painting in the house. We put up a studio. She started selling her paintings so fast that we made them into prints, and she signs and numbers them. And we also make note cards. So now her note cards are in several gift shops around the state. She participates in the weekly business classes provided by Sue. We've seen her friends in person at the different craft shows and art shows, and it has made her so happy. She loves painting. She loves making people happy. She loves knowing that her artwork is all over the state and all over the world right now. She was actually commissioned 2 winters ago to do our senator's holiday card, Senator Jack Reed. And the governor has one of her prints in that he purchased also. So it's so nice. I go places and people say, "Oh, you're Rachel's mom. You're Rachel's mom." And it's really like I'm known now through her. And people know her all over the state. And it's really been wonderful. So I can't thank Sue and this whole organization enough for giving us the Rachel we have now, who is happy, thriving, social, and so proud of the work that she does. And it's really incredible. It's changed her life. It's changed our lives.
Thank you, Karen. And one thing that I want to say about Rachel, when she was in the class, her head was under the table. Her dad was speaking for her. But today she looks you right in the eye and she talks directly to you. And with those painting classes that she does, she's actually teaching painting to people that don't have a disability. So she's doing paint shows, which is really amazing. So just by helping the person to really figure out where they fit in the world and to have this business that just means so much to her and her family, she's just a proud entrepreneur that has done absolute wonders. And both Karen and Rachel will be speaking with me at the National APSE conference in June. And so Rachel will be there to talk about her business, which is just really awesome.
Yeah, she's even a permanent artist in an art gallery, in a local art gallery, which is really exciting too.
Awesome. Thank you. Next slide, I think, is our contact information. And Karen, if you could put in the chat your the website address for Rachel in case, because I see somebody already looked her up on Instagram, but if you could put that in there, that would be really great. And this is just a shout out to all of the support that we get, not only from DLT and the Fogarty Foundation, but from CPN, that is the manager of our partnership grant, obviously the DD Council where I work, and to BHDDH for also supporting our work and providing some context for us for referrals for participants to be in our various business series. Thank you.
So, and Karen, thank you so much. Karen, thanks for making time. I think this is it's wonderful to hear from you. I've got to ask this question, then I want to give Matt a heads up for when we end with the formal presentations. There are two questions, and I guess, Sue, this one first is directed at you, and I guess Rory and Aimee as well. Could you have done this without the support of the Department of Labor and Training in Rhode Island?
No, no. And I think that that's a really unique, this is why we wanted to do this webinar. Most states, individuals get their resources from either the Department of Education, ORS, or DD. This was really unique. And I have to give a real big shout out to my buddy, Rory, because if it wasn't for Rory in 2017 or whatever, reaching out to the Department of Labor and Training and making that groundwork of setting, the contacts and really speaking up on behalf of people with disabilities, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. I don't generally like to give Rory any great feedback, but I will. Sue has her information here. She's always willing, as she says, to talk and to chat. So please do that. If you'd like to. Rory, I'm just going to pull up the still shot.
Okay.
If that's cool with you.
That's fine.
I'm going to take all that back and say that while I've known Rory, certainly not as long as Sue Babin, but for a long time, Rory, for our provider folks in the audience from Georgia, Rhode Island already knows this. Rory, I think I saw on LinkedIn, is it 34-year celebration of the work in this field? I can't remember.
Well, 27 at AccessPoint, but probably a total of 40 plus, because I started like Matt as a child in kindergarten, going to places.
All joking aside, and Sue has given Rory some great compliments here, but Rory is one of those people who does not stop innovating. And she's going to talk to us about the DLT funded project that many of you from Georgia will know, Project Search. And I'll let Rory talk a little bit about that as I try to share a still shot here.
Project Search, the one we designed in Rhode Island, was an adult project search. So it was for folks 18 to 30 who had never had work experience before, who had very limited work experience. We were able to get into Bally's Twin River Casino because we had started with them the year before doing customized employment, as you all know, for a gentleman who is deaf, nonverbal, and uses a power wheelchair to get around. And I explained to Bally's how he would be a wonderful employee. They were a little stumped at first until we explained how his computer voice could say, "Welcome to Bally's. Hope you have a wonderful day," and could live stream some of their advertisements for them. So they acquiesced and they hired him for 2 days a week. And before long, they were saying, "So what else can we do? Because he's made such an impression upon us." And this included the general manager, who was moved by the gentleman's name is Mickey, his enthusiasm for coming to work and reaching out to people. And even though he was nonverbal, his presence, his aura, if you will, was just so engaging that they loved what they were seeing. So we had an opportunity to do the project search. So my first people I went to was Bally's Casino and said, "This would be a great opportunity for you to host 9 months of people walking through your casino, learning everything about you." And it wasn't even, I can't even say it was a hard lift. They loved the concept. They wanted to do it. So as Sue suggested, I presented it as a braided or blended funded program, ORS, DLT. ORS is our VR counterpart in Rhode Island, ORS, DLT, and our DD outlet. So we could bring those state departments together to see how sharing the funds and resource could promote a project like this. And Bally's ran with it. They gave us our classroom is in the old VIP suite, this oak room with leather chairs and everything that is just stunning. And they worked with their staff to get mentors for each of the students coming in. Now, Bally's, as is with most casinos, has 10 to 13 different unions, and not one of them raised an issue. They loved the idea. And I think when you get right down to it, we sometimes look at the monolith of a corporation or a company like Bally's and only see that. But at its heart, what is Bally's but a bunch of people like us, trying to get through the day? And when we did that, we made really good personal connections with certain mentors. And then we asked them to introduce us to similar mentors. And before long, we had people coming up to us saying, my kid's got autism. Can you help me with this? Or, my mother can't get a wheelchair ramp. How do I do this? So we became useful to the employer. And that's the other thing we really try to sell as an agency and as a program, is that we're not just trying to take from, but we want to give information to. We want to be a resource. We want to have a real relationship with all of our employers. And Bally's, the general manager spoke at the graduation last year and was almost moved to tears when he was talking about how much this impacted him. And that what he really realized what was important in life was not the big picture, but watching how some of these young people came in, learned the job, struggled through it, and were just happy to be there. It was phenomenal. We had over 100 people at the graduation, from the lieutenant governor down to every single person from every department in the state. And it was an incredible celebration to see that. So it just worked really, really well. Some of the families were concerned because they're thinking, a casino, really? That's different. But we invited all the families in. They spent a day with us. They get to meet the mentors. They get to meet everybody. And I kept pointing out the security cameras every 5 feet. So I said, it's a completely safe place for your son or daughter to be. Door-to-door service with our specialized transportation ride, which is amazing, because transportation, as we all know, is probably one of the biggest nuts to crack. And people just really, really did well. Of the 6 graduates you see there, every single one of them was offered a job. Most of them 5 of them took the job. One person decided that wasn't right for her at this time. The 2 gentlemen on the bottom row, in the middle and to the right, are still employed at Bally's, and everybody else is working either in nursing facilities, restaurants, hotels. So everybody is still employed. And our graduation is coming up again this year on June 12th, and we're having some of the graduates from last year's cohort come to talk about their experiences in the world of work. And for our graduates this year, 2 people have been offered employment so far, not at Bally's, but in similar positions. So it's just worked out beautifully, and it could not have happened without the commitment of that Weldon and DLT. And I can't say enough good things about DLT and Matt and his team, because without them, there were so many projects that wouldn't get done for us. And I would go back to him and say, I have an idea. And I'm sure he wanted to hang up most times, but they were wonderful opportunities for us. Because remember, we're, as service providers, we're employers. So I had gone back to DLT and said, I have an idea. I want to work with our Crossroads, our homeless center, to create a program where we can train people to become direct support professionals. And over the last year or so, we were able to train 18, primarily women, become direct support professionals and work in 5 different agencies. So again, that idea of giving back, and that we have a reciprocal relationship with our state departments, but with also all of our employers. And they've done the same thing with a roadmap position where we are working with folks from all over the place, behavioral health, justice involved, and certainly our folks with IHDD and recovery and reentry. So collaborations like this it's like a lightning strike. It's once in a lifetime, but it's fantastic. And we would not have had any of the outcomes that we've had without the collaboration of DLT with our programs.
Thank you, Rory. As you might guess, and again, anyone who wants to address this after Aimee presents, just want to give you a little heads up. I think, you said it in passing, Rory, and I think, Matt, it was certainly in the graphics and the banner of your partners and collaborators around this whole idea of labor unions. This group, by the way, knows I talk way too much about my family, but I grew up in a union household. And, there's certainly times when I've tried to job develop within unions and I haven't been successful. And so, if we can talk a little bit about that near the end, I think people would really like that. And Rory, I think this whole idea of, how do you purposefully, right, engage business owners, managers, all that kind of piece that we make it too complex, right? And I love this part. And there's just another question here. Again, you can answer this once we get through with Aimee's presentation. And that is related to your point around how you have made this connection to other folks who are unemployed makes you much more valuable. And then on top of that, being able to purposefully give back to workplace settings, because disability, addiction, mental health, those are all natural parts of being a human being, and you're bringing that assistance. And so if you'll keep that tucked away, I know folks are going to want some more information on that. Aimee, are you ready?
I am.
All right. Let me see if I can share the right screen. Thank you, dear. Here we go. Aimee, please take it away.
Thank you so much. I wanted to introduce you to the Personal Care Assistant Training Program that we began with the help of DLT. Absolutely, to answer your question right off the bat, we would not have made this innovative training possible without the funding of DLT. So we really appreciate that opportunity. You can go to the next slide, please. So just to give you a little background, what is the PCA training program? It's a 10-week training designed to prepare individuals to assist other individuals with physical disabilities so that they may live a fulfilled life. So basically, we try to service at least 60% of the participants that we have with intellectual disabilities. So we came up with this innovative idea to train people with intellectual disabilities to be able to help people with physical disabilities. And then also we wanted it integrated. So we also still have 40% of the participants without intellectual disabilities. That way it's a well-rounded program. It includes things like communication, time management, transferring, meal planning. It basically acts like someone's arms and legs if they do not have use of them. So they're trained in all those areas. If you could go to the next slide, please. So again, 60% of our participants identify with a disability. And in fact, in some cohorts, we just finished up a cohort last week and we had 8 individuals complete the training and all 8 identified with a disability. So it was 100% in our class this time. Also, it is serviced with accommodations. So there's no one and no disability that we would turn away. Everyone would get something out of this training, whether it is a better community member, knowing how to complete CPR and first aid, emergency response. So these individuals are also trained in soft skills. So they could be at the beginning of their entryway into the work development force. And so they need things like just basic what we're wearing and to start at the very basics. So these individuals, like I said, if they're not going to be a PCA at the end of it, they're still going to have these skills that they need to enter the workforce. If you could change the slides, please. So after their training, they enter a 10-hour internship with the potential to hire. So we're beginning right at the first week where we're introducing them to care.com, to Indeed, to different hiring platforms where they can start to search for an internship. We don't want an internship that's not going to turn into employment. So we're very focused on finding hireable employers at the end of this. It's a little tricky because a lot of our employers are actually individuals who have the personal choice program for the state of Rhode Island. So they are an individual who has a physical disability and they're able to hire their own employees. So saturating that population and getting into households where people need us has been the challenge, but also the most rewarding because we have found them. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Here's Annette, and she was our inspiration for the program. So Annette was someone who she actually has her PhD and she works full time. And during COVID, it really hit home that people who have physical disabilities were stuck in their home. So Annette took 5 hours in the morning to get dressed, whereas if she had a PCA, it would only take her 30 minutes. So just imagine having to spend 5 hours. If she has to get on a call at 7 a.m., she's having to get up 5 hours before that at 2 o'clock in the morning in order to be present at her computer. Now she has 3 of our PCAs hired from our training cohorts, and she has them she has them all 7 days of the week. So we have been able to provide her with PCAs on the weekends, the nights, and the daytime, which is an incredible feat for her. And she's able to stay employed. If you could go on to the next slide, that would be great. So, and then there's me. So I started out with the PCA program in Massachusetts, and I came with the wealth and the knowledge of what a participant would need to learn. But I was never a leader before or a facilitator. And so it also gave me a great opportunity to make about $20,000 more a year for myself. And it really grew a career that I didn't even know I was so passionate about. So I was also given a great opportunity here. So if you could go on to the next slide, please. Also, we have Rachel, who's now our facilitator, and Rachel started out as a PCA, and now she's also making about $20,000 more a year for herself and her family, and she's able to provide a lot more. She took care of her grandmother and her mother at the end of their lives, so she has a wealth of knowledge to teach the participants, and she also specializes in intellectual disabilities, so she is able to provide the accommodations and the support that the individual need in order to be successful. If you could go on to the next slide, please. I'd like you to play this video if you could.
Good.
What made you choose to join the PCA training?
Oh, like to help people when downtown can't help themselves.
Is that like your roommate? You told me about your roommate. Can you tell me a little bit more about your roommate and what your plans were?
He has a physical disability that can't go down the stairs. And he can go down.
Yep. And you took this training so that you could do what with your roommate?
Live without problems.
Wow. So you wanted to complete the training so that you could move to a new apartment without stairs and you could take care of your roommate?
Yeah.
It's pretty noble. What do you love about the job?
And
Annette. So Annette hired you after the PCA program? What kind of days do you work?
Saturday and Sundays.
Which is really amazing. It's hard to find weekend work, isn't it?
Yeah.
And now that you work with Annette, how much do you make an hour, if you don't mind me asking?
$20.
$20. Do you know what minimum wage is?
There's no first family.
$15. So how do you feel about making $5 more an hour than the average person?
That's about no, that was good.
Yeah. And how do you get to work every day?
I walk.
You walk to and from work?
Yeah.
And if it rains, you still walk?
It went a big old world, man.
That's awesome. So you're independent with your transportation.
Great. So that was so that was John, and John is someone who identified with having an intellectual disability, but yet he still came forward and tried to get this and went to this training because his roommate was struggling and wouldn't be able to return to the apartment with John. So they are actually moving to Jamestown to a 1-floor apartment, and John is going to be his full-time caretaker. So the impact of that, both financially for John and also the physical help with his roommate, is just unbelievable, really. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Yes. Another thing that I just wanted to touch upon, besides having the social and economical trains, is also the transferable skills that these individuals are learning. We have, you can go on to the next slide, please. We have individuals that had joined the training, such as Mike, who had a background. So we will allow people who have a background join the training, although they can't enter certain facilities or be a home PCA, they are still able to use those skills in order to get a job. So Mike was able to use our program for 12 weeks. He showed up every single time he was supposed to, and we were able to give that to a future employer. And he was actually hired by a manufacturing company, Westco, and he makes $28 an hour. So well above minimum wage, and a huge difference and an impact on his family. If you could go to the next slide. And then we also have Chimika, who I just wanted to mention because Chimika was never able to be employed because she suffered from epilepsy, but she always had a dream of entering the medical field. She couldn't be a CNA. She couldn't be, something with a license due to her epilepsy, but she can be a PCA and she can help someone in their home. And now she's a full-time PCA. She's not collecting unemployment or Social Security. And she is a PCA for a gentleman near her that she's able to not worry about transportation. She's able to walk to and from work, and she's able to take care of this gentleman full-time. For the first time in her whole life, she's been able to work full-time. So that's Chimika. And then if you want to go to the next slide. So that's it. This is my email. If you have any questions, I really want to thank CPNRI and DLT for funding this and for helping us start this. It is we have not even been 2 years into this program, and we have helped over 30, and we have had over 30 participants. And with every participant means someone is matched out in the community for help. So we really hope to have this program ongoing.
Thank you, Aimee, so much. I'm going to say this because it is burning in my heart and in my brain. I wish every voter in the United States could have seen this afternoon these presentations, the return on investment, helping people move from the public safety net, which is required, obviously, for safety, to learning new skills, becoming taxpayers, reducing their usage of public benefits. I wish every single person could see it. I'm going to escape this now if I can. And we're going to use these last few minutes to cover questions that have come up, both in chat. And Ben, if you would like to unmute and just ask your question, that would be great, my friend. Do you mind, Ben?
Sure. Hey, Doug, thanks to all the presenters for sharing about all these cool things going on in Rhode Island. I am the project search coordinator for Georgia, and so I was really excited to hear about the adult program and all those awesome outcomes. So I would just love to hear a little bit more about kind of how you got that going, and in particular, how you partnered with DLT. Rory, thank you for sharing your email in the chat, and I will definitely be reaching out to you. But if anybody else wants to hear too, would love to, just hear a couple words.
Well, our Office of Rehab Services, OVR, they hold a license for the project search. So they had wanted to do an adult one. We have some of the school-based project search in the States, so they wanted to do one a little differently. So they had asked, because we had some success with some different programs in our association already with DLT, about doing one. So we said, yes, of course, we would love to. And we partnered with our DD, and I think Jay's on the call, and I don't know if I think Melody's on the call too. We partnered with both of them and with DLT to see if we couldn't just create something. So going forward, we knew that we could braid and blend those resources together so everybody could contribute something, and the outcomes have been wonderful. And it has led to more opportunities. In fact, Bally's Twin River had asked us if we would consider doing a similar project search at their other casino location in Tiverton, Rhode Island. And Bally's introduced us to the Rhode Island Airport Corporation and suggested we should try them as well. So it's created this, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. It's created this effect that has really been quite good. but it is about getting the right people in the room. And actually, those right people are on the call right now. Matt, Jay, and Melanie are on the call. And having those relationships with those people in your state departments. And as Doug said, I seldom take no for an answer. I don't have any restraining orders yet.
I was just going to say that you have to be persistent. You got to be persistent.
Yeah.
And somehow Rhode Islanders are able to do that. It's a special place. I joke about it a lot, but I'm not going to take up the time.
I was going to say, I did tell Doug at the beginning of when we were signing on, is that Bravo has decided to do the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. And I don't know how many people on the call who will be applying for those positions, but I think Dana, maybe Sue, a couple other people you might see going forward.
I've never watched any of that franchise, but I may just have to.
Oh, you might want to tune in for this one.
I'll jump in and just say that from a state agency perspective, it's easy to get siloed into, our funding does this or our funding does that. And, from my perspective at DLT, I'm responsible for increasing incomes and for growing our economy. And so that means that if I just look at it as I'm only willing to fund, certain projects or certain initiatives, then I would be missing people that may need even more of a boost. For me, it's a lot about equity. And equity means sometimes investing more in different communities and different groups and in different populations to give them an opportunity. And so really, that's the viewpoint that I take when I'm assessing the requests that come in. It would be easy to say, just go to the other department or us can help you and we'll see how it goes. But I'll give credit to Rory and Sue and Aimee, their organizations. They come forward and say, why can't you do this? And the last thing for me on this is we used to have a program along with Real Jobs called Real Pathways. Real Pathways was real jobs for people with barriers. And when I became director, I decided to eliminate the Real Pathways program and just create one program so we're not siloing people. And so everybody has access to the resources. At that time, I was challenged by some advocates that said that was a way for me to walk away from people. And I would say that I haven't done that and I don't intend to do that. But it was important that we look at it as one initiative for the state of Rhode Island.
Yeah, thank you all for your insight. I'll definitely be reaching out for more.
Thank you, Ben. I've just made an executive decision, even though I have no executive function. We are going to table the labor union discussion, and I believe we are going to cover that. So Rhode Islanders, be calling on you and some friends in Indiana. I think we'll cover that in a webinar for the fall. However, if any of our Georgia folks have questions, you've got folks' contact information, and certainly I can help you connect just in a Zoom to do it informally. But I think not only have we run out of time, I think that topic deserves its own focus. I want to thank each of our friends from Rhode Island to take out the time and to share with us. Not only does it have a special place in my heart, but the food is amazing. Thank you all very, very much. Join us next week as we look at Georgia's disability justice journey. You'll hear about Olmstead, which, of course, is a national Supreme Court decision. Thank you, Rhode Island, and take care of yourselves. Until next time. Let's clap them out. Let's wave them out now. Come on. Do some of that Georgia hospitality. See you, Asia. Glad you could join.
See you. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you, Ben. Thanks for playing along. All right. I'm hanging up. See you, Jay McKay.